Hello my dear YouTuber friends, I hope you're all keeping well. Welcome to this new video, which is part 3 of my around the world flight in Flight Simulator 2020. Now it's been quite a while since I released part 2, let me link that for you in the top right. This time we're doing part 3 with a bit of an added bonus. I'm going to incorporate my Logitech multi-panel in this video. I'll show you how it will look on screen somewhere in this video to give you an idea. Going to incorporate that into this video, use it during the flight to show you how it can be used. And for those of you who are interested in the multi-panel, this will show you how it operates in flight and how you can use it. So let's get on with this. So on our last flight, we landed at Charles de Gaulle Airport. Let's head there. Charles de Gaulle, there it is. I can see it's on the map. Now, because we're so close to Paris, all these lovely places in Paris centre, it would be a crime not to go and sightsee and go and visit these. So we're going to fly past there, fly past Orly, and then go to Villaroche Airport, land there. So let's get started. Charles de Gaulle Airport, let's click on that and zoom to details. We want to take off this way, so we'll choose one of the smaller runways. 26 left seems okay. Set as departure. Like I said, we want to fly past this direction so we can go and look at Paris. So we want to land it in Villaroche. So first we'll click on Villaroche, zoom to details, and we'll land on this runway, runway 10. So click there, set as arrival. There we go, we have a simple flight plan, but we don't want to fly this way, we want to fly past Paris. So we'll use Orly as a sort of waypoint. So click on there and just click add. Now you can see we're going to go this way using the autopilot and then fly in this direction to Villaroche. Now, because we're going to be using the multi-panel, there's an important step we need to take here. We need to click on nav log. And if you click on this line here or just hover the mouse over this line, you can see that's a 205-degree heading. So we have to keep that in mind. From Charles de Gaulle over to Orly, it's a 205-degree heading we need to put into our autopilot. So we'll keep that in mind. And flying from Orly to Villaroche, that's a 120-degree heading. So those two headings, 205 when we get to Orly and then onto Villaroche, we need to change it to 120, so keep that in mind. We'll close that. Flight conditions, because we want to sightsee. Well, I've actually got the weather on live, but I tell you what, live's okay. It's not a problem. Hopefully. So with that on all set now, we can... Oh, and by the way, we're flying in the Cessna 172. Important you use an aircraft with autopilot if you want to use the multi-panel. If I chose an aircraft that didn't have autopilot, the multi-panel wouldn't work, so keep that in mind. Cessna Skyhawk 172 with the G1000, so we can see the map as well. So, let's click on fly. So here we are on our chosen designated runway to take off from Charles de Gaulle. Now let's set up the multi-panel. So let me just press record on my phone here so we can see what's what. Now I want to move this switch here. Let's set the heading first. So I want to move it down to heading. So let's do that. And you should see heading come up. Now remember, the first heading, essentially in the aircraft, look at the aircraft now, this line, once we take off we want to follow this line, which is a 205-degree heading. So we'll use this knob to change that heading value to 205, We won't set autopilot yet, we're just setting up the instructions for the autopilot, so when we do click on it, it will head on to that heading, basically. We'll move this knob now back up to the very top to Alt, altitude, and we'll choose an altitude of 1100. So we'll just get that all set so that when we click on autopilot, oops, 1200, 1100, when we click on autopilot and heading and alt, it will take us to that heading and take us to that altitude as well. So that's all set. Okay, so we'll take off, power up, release the parking brake, of course, all the basic things. It's quite a long runway, we don't need flaps, we'll get to about 60 miles per hour, 60 knots, whichever one it is, and then gently take off. So that will do. I'm just trimming my aircraft so I don't need to hold back on my yoke. So there you go, I can release pressure on the yoke and just use trim now. So we want to fly essentially towards this, and when we get somewhere near it I will click on the autopilot. Bring back the power a little bit because we don't need to be at full thrust. The nose of the aircraft will want to drop, so just keep that in mind, just use your trim. Always amazed when I jump into Flight Simulator 2020, the only simulator at the moment that simply knocks my socks off in the scenery. And this is just default scenery, but it looks amazing, of course. We're coming up on that line, so I'll get ready to set my autopilot. So this will do. So we'll click on autopilot, heading, and the alt button as well. So there you go, you see that's all set. And you can see the aircraft is turning. I switched on a little bit too late, so we're a little bit off that line, but it doesn't matter, we're heading in that general direction. And because we're sightseeing, let's just adjust that map a little bit so we can zoom out on the map on the G1000. Because we'll be sightseeing, in fact you can see the Eiffel Tower coming up there on our right slightly. I'm not too worried, actually we're not too far off that line, so it's good. We're on a 205 degree heading at 1100 altitude. And you can see the aircraft is obeying the autopilot commands beautifully. It's heading now to 205 and the altitude is 1100. Perfect. So it's hands off now. The autopilot has taken over, which is fantastic. One of the main benefits of that multi-panel, it's just so easy to use, so convenient. You don't have to mess around with knobs down here for the autopilot. It's all on that multi-panel. I love it. So Paris is coming up, of course, the centre of Paris, the Eiffel Tower and various other landmarks. Now I'll link an Orbx forum down below for you, because they're releasing Paris landmarks packet. They said at the beginning of January, and it's not yet in store. I can't see it in the Orbx store or the Flight Simulator 2000 store. So it's not released yet. If you look at that forum, you'll see a little question from me towards the bottom. It may have been answered by the time you watch this video. Asking when it will be released, because I'm really eager to use that. Tell you what, we're coming up on Paris now. We can take the autopilot off. So let's record this and show you. I'm just going to click the main autopilot button, and autopilot is now off. So we can start turning towards Paris. I'm going to try and keep the same altitude if I can. Make sure everything's set on my throttle to the way I like it. Roughly it's the same altitude. And we'll head towards Paris Centre. And then we'll come back on this line. But it's great. If you just want to go sightseeing, you see a site, click off that autopilot and go and fly towards where you want to fly to. As I was saying, I'm so eager to see and buy this Paris landmark pack by Orbx. I think they did a beautiful job with London. I know a lot of people didn't like that package, but I absolutely think it enhanced London no end. Sydney was even more, well, just as amazing for me. I love both those scenery packages, landmarks packages. Paris, it's one of those cities I would love to see enhanced. I can't wait. This is all default Paris, and as you can see, it doesn't look too bad. There's quite a few buildings missing. The main buildings are there, the Basilica, Eiffel Tower, Louvre, or whatever is there as well. A lot of the main buildings are there, but a lot of buildings are not there. And some of the scenery does look like it's just autogen-ish scenery, just like default scenery, although some of it does look incredible even at this default level. But that landmark package should enhance this incredibly. I'm really excited for that. When it's released, I'll try and buy it day one and do a day one review, or day two review, or whatever. Fly around in it first, test it. Really excited for that package. And that should be releasing imminently. Well, as you can see, this doesn't look too bad at all. Something that Flight Simulator 2020 does that no other simulator does at the moment. It gives you that sort of depth, that feeling of height, I think. And just that depth of field looking out. And just an amazing simulator to fly around in. I know it's got its detractors, people who don't like it. I'm quite okay with it. I don't mind the flight model in the Cessna aircraft and some of the other light to medium aircraft. It can only improve, and it is slowly improving as time goes along. I'm still in love with this simulator, absolutely. So what we'll do, we'll pop outside first so we can see the Basilica better. Get a good view of that. Some of the scenery is stunning even at this default level. It's just the surrounding buildings could be more individual, shall we say, more bespoke. But that will come in a scenery package, no doubt. That looks quite good. Let's jump back into the aircraft. I've just got a button set up on my throttle unit there. I'll link you my Flight Simulator 2020 guides and tutorial playlist so you can go and peruse those videos for my settings. I'll probably release another video soon about all my current settings that I currently have set up, because I know a lot of people find those videos quite interesting, so I'll do that. Coming up on the Eiffel Tower, we'll loop around this and then head back towards the magenta line there and get back on our autopilot. So the Grand Palais there, very nice. Apologies to any French people, viewers watching this video. English people tend to butcher French pronunciations. I did take it in school for a couple of years, but yeah, that was a long time ago. A language I absolutely love, French. Probably the language I want to learn if I learn any language. That and Italian. I know a little bit of Italian. Chiamu James, my name is James. Non parlo Italiano is a good one. I don't speak Italian because whenever I went to Italian, because I'm dark haired, I look quite Italian, or I can get away with looking Italian, and I had a lot of people asking me for directions. Even in France in fact, I've got curly hair, or wavy hair. A lot of people mistook me for being French as well. Yeah, so learning those phrases. Non parlo Italiano is good when I went to Italy. Is it non parli français or something? Anyway, let's get on with this video and not embarrass myself. So we'll see some buildings do look bespoke, like they've been handcrafted. So it's nice to see, but it's not the Paris I want to see in game. I want it to look as stunning as the London Landmarks package does and the Sydney Landmarks package. Can't wait for that Orbx package coming out hopefully soon. So you can see this line, this autopilot line, our flight path curves a little bit. It curves around and then goes on to heading off 120 to Villeroche Airport. So we'll head towards this and start tinkering with our autopilot as well, especially when we get around this point. I'll gradually turn it to try and follow that line. You'll see that when I get to it. And apologies to anybody who doesn't like me doing that, sort of viewing left and right. It's what I naturally do when I fly. It's what you would naturally do if you was in an aircraft. You'd be looking left and right. So it's just habit for me to do that. But I do enjoy looking at the sights and scenery that Flight Simulator 2020 offers, of course. Like I said, I still think it's a fantastic scenery package. I'll get my camera set up again because we do need to turn the autopilot back on soon. So when we get nearer to this line, I'll turn it back on. In fact, can I zoom in a little bit on this? It's always a bit awkward to zoom using these, mousing over this sort of adjust the map. So I have to mouse down to zoom in there. Okay, that'll do. Just so I can get a closer look at it. So I've increased, I'm still flying by hand here. My altitude's gone up a little bit, but as soon as I press that altitude, autopilot altitude button, it will head back down to 1100 feet for us, so I'm not too worried. We're not wildly high at the moment. Just keeping things nice and steady. We've now hit 1300. Let's just trim just a little bit so we don't increase anymore. Slowly approaching this line. What are we, 99-degree heading at the moment? That's okay. Don't have to be exact, but I'll try and get it as close to that line as I can. Okay, so altitude is 1100. Let's just check heading. Still on 205. We're approaching that line. Let's click autopilot. Heading and altitude. That's all set. And as you can see in the simulator, it's following. Yeah, not too bad. I could have been a little bit more perfect with that, but that's okay. So as you can see here now, this is a 205 line. As it turns, the course turns a little bit because we're coming up to Ollie, as you can see. As you can see, the course sort of alters a little bit. We'll try and alter our autopilot when we get to this point so it follows the course around to our 120 heading for Villaroche. Villaroche. Roche. So there you can see we're flying now. If you watch the map part here, I'm going to alter this autopilot slightly. Let's put it on 200. So that's more like 180, that line, it looks like it. Put it on 200 there for the moment. Alter it a little bit more, 195. And as soon as you start altering this, because you've got autopilot on, the aircraft will respond automatically, as you can see. And now we can start altering that a little bit more, maybe 187, just to follow that line down. If you look at the map there, I'm trying to follow that line. That's more like 180 now, isn't it? We'll follow it round. You don't need to do this, of course. You can fly roughly past this part and just go to set it to 120 to follow the line down. But I want to try and follow this line as much as I can. And it's just to show you the versatility of the multi-panel as well. So we'll just let it come down a little bit more. Can we zoom in more on that map to get a better view? This is so awkward. I would love a sort of panel that would just like a map panel. I'll have to look it up where I could start just doing this by hand rather than on the actual simulator, because it is awkward. Okay, we have to alter our course a little bit more now. You can see we're coming off that line. So let's go to 165 to begin with. Ah, now you can see that line's changed completely. So what we'll do, we'll fly down here and then change this heading to 120. I don't know if that map would do that automatically in a sort of on a real G1000 aircraft, if it would just suddenly alter like that. But it doesn't really matter. Very much gives you the same result. You can see we're coming up to that line now, so I don't want to be too late with this one, because this is the important line to follow. So as you can see, I'm altering that now right down to 120, which is the heading of that line, of that course line. And as you can see, we are near enough on it. Not too bad at all. I've got the map pretty much quite zoomed in there, so we're okay. At some point, actually saying that, I want to zoom out a little bit. So mouse up, auto adjust map zoom. Make sure you got that highlighted on that button. Actually, no, that's too far now. Let's leave it there. It was okay where it was. We should see ahead of us a runway eventually. Obviously I can cheat a little bit and use the mouse wheel to zoom. You could even use the drone camera if you want to see ahead of you there to see where the airport is. The line of the runway we're landing on goes roughly this way, so we will have to alter our course a little bit. But we're pretty much lined up with it, with this heading. So the interesting thing about the multi-panel is I'm using that autopilot. Isn't that lovely? Just so distracted by these views. I'm using the autopilot bit of it quite a lot and really enjoying it. I really find that a useful feature, especially when you're going on longer flights. This is not so long, but if you were going on a flight that's going to last a couple of hours, it's just brilliant. Set it and it will just follow your course. The trim wheel, I'm not using as much as I thought I would be. I really wanted that multi-panel for that trim wheel. I'm still using the rocker switch more. I'm finding it hard to adjust to a trim wheel, but I'll keep persevering with that because I do feel a trim wheel is more precise. Yeah, but the autopilot part of it, the autopilot function, the feature of it, I'm using a lot. I'm loving it. Still highly recommend that panel. I've applied to be an affiliate with Logitech, so as soon as I get my affiliation approved, I will link various things in the description below this video and other videos I've done on these flight controls with Logitech. We'll see how that goes. Okay, let's zoom in there. I can kind of see that's the runway there. That's the runway, I know, because I've done this flight before, that we want to land on. So, let's get ready. Might as well record this as well, just so you can see what I'm doing. I shall now switch the autopilot off. And that's all we need to see of that panel. Now we're in manual flight. I'm going to adjust so you can see Villarush ahead of us there. I'm going to bring my speed down. I've got my speed set to roughly half on my throttle quadrant at the moment. Let's just zoom in a little bit just to get a better idea. Okay. So I'm just veering to the right there, steering to the right, just to get a better approach on that runway. I'll go one stage of flaps now, just to slow us down a little bit more. The nose will want to climb off the aircraft there. The aircraft will want to climb, so you just have to be attentive with your trim there. Bring it down now. I've got my throttle set to about a third. We're slowing down nicely. Because we're under 100 now, I shall set full flaps. And you can see our speed is dropping nicely. Ideally, on approach there, 65 to 70 is good. Mine's slightly above that. Bring my throttle down a little bit more. Don't want to descend too much, so pitch up a little bit. Remember, in this situation, pitch trim is your friend. Rather than pulling back and forward on the yoke system, you want to be pitching more than using the actual physical yoke to control your altitude. If you want to descend a little bit more, you can actually throttle is your friend there as well. Pull the throttle back to descend, push it forward to increase your altitude. But in this situation, because we're landing, we don't want to speed up. Want to keep it on a nice steady approach. Bit low on the approach here, of course. But hey, it's one of my videos. Actually much lower than the last time I did this flight. But never mind, I'm just using my pitch to adjust there. Just to keep myself above the trees. And try and line up with that runway. Try and get on centre line if I can this time. Now, you can see my throttle. I need to increase my throttle there, in fact, because I'm in danger of stalling, which is not good. Not a good approach, this, guys. Don't follow this. I did so much better last time. I literally just did this flight to practice. Never mind. We can recover there. Just increase the throttle a little bit. Just so you're not in danger of stalling. Get to around 45 on the speed there, and we will be stalling. So we don't want that to happen. There we go. Kind of recovered that. Bring my throttle back there to descend, because the runway is in sight now. And I'm just controlling the descent with pitch trim at the moment, so I'm not descending too much. Come off the centre line a little bit there, so let's try and get back on it. And now we're over the runway. I'm going to null my throttle and use my yoke to control the rate of descent. So I'm actually using the physical yoke, so I don't hit the runway too hard. Well, that'll do. Textbook landing, not again. Never mind. Okay, so wheel brake just to slow down. You'll see now I've got, let's actually just pause a sec there. I've got that sort of marker leading me to a taxiway. Again, if you want to do that, go to assistance, I believe, and where was it? Assisted landing, aircraft navigation aids, and just make sure your taxi ribbon is turned on. So I'll show you that again in options, assistance, navigation aids. Make sure taxi ribbon is on, and if you've landed on the correct runway, you get that taxi ribbon. Come on. Now it's quite a long taxiway here, so I'll get off the runway and end the flight. Ignore the landing there, or certainly the approach. I guess the landing was okay, but the approach was terrible on that landing. Ignore that. The part you should be paying attention to in this video is the autopilot section, setting your multi-panel to autopilot you along your flight path. I think it's brilliant. Let's just pull off here. And then we'll just stop the recording. That's fine. That's fine. And just put our parking brake on there. Probably get shouted at from ATC in real life. But there you go, we're just off the runway. Yeah, we're off the runway, we're fine. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on this video. Let me know what you think about and your opinions about the multi-panel, about the usage. I'm loving it. Give the video a like if you've enjoyed it, subscribe for more, and I'll see you soon.